It's been a minute. Hey there, storytellers. Welcome back to my channel. I haven't said that in a while because it's been like a year, I think, since I've made a video, and that is my own fault. I let things get in the way of my creative outlets, and I hadn't been doing most of them for a while now. But as many of you know and are experiencing, we are currently in a state of self-isolation for a somewhat indefinite future. So I figured now is probably the best time to really dive deep into reading, writing, and creating videos or any other creative content that I want to do. The goal is to set sort of a good creative foundation for myself, maybe start trying to create at least a routine around it, even if I don't do it at the same time every day, just something that gets me in the mood and ready to go. So that is what we're doing. But today, as you can tell from the title down below, I am tier ranking some books. Currently, tier ranking is a really big trend on BookTube, and I thought it looked super fun, and it looked like a super simple, easy way to get myself back into the swing of videos. So I thought I'd go ahead and do that right now with you guys. And in case you can't tell, I am judging books by their cover. All of the books I have on my list right now are books that I have on my shelves. They're ones I picked out and bought for myself or were sent to me in subscription boxes. I'm scanning through my list again right now, and I haven't read any of them. I know a little bit more about some than others, but basically I'm going to treat this as if I walked into a bookstore, saw this book cover, what would my impression of it be? Would I want to buy it or not? What would my immediate feelings about these book covers be? Which is often, I'm a little bit ashamed to admit, how I purchase my books anyway. Usually it is the cover that draws me in, sometimes the title more so, and that's what pulls me in and gets me to read the synopsis, and then I usually decide. But honestly, that's what the book cover's there for. It's meant to intrigue you in some way. So I don't feel too guilty about judging them by their covers, but like a little bit, because you know you're not supposed to. Without further ado, let's get into it. So as you can see, I'll start with my categories. I have 5. I wanted to keep it nice and simple. My top tier is Need It Now. These are essentially the books that when I look at the cover, I'm like, I need to set everything that I'm currently reading down because I need to get to this book ASAP. The next one is Next Up. That is basically what most people do when they find a new book that they like. They go, okay, I'm currently reading things, but I think I'm going to add this to my TBR pile so that I get to it sometime soon. I'll get to it. This is the one that a lot of books fall on for me in general, not necessarily this list, but it's basically a book I'm interested in, but not in the immediate sense. It's like, I'll get to it, you know, it'll go on my shelf, it'll hang out, and I'll look at it, and I'll go, this time am I ready to read it? No, not yet. I'll get to it. After that, we have It Can Wait, which is pretty self-explanatory. It's a book that you might have from a subscription box or something, and you're just not super jazzed about it, and you're like, it can wait. There's so many more books that I want to read instead of this one. And last but not least, why did I pick this? Again, I think it's a little self-explanatory. It's a book you're looking at and you're going, nothing about this cover or anything intrigues me that much. Why did I pick this again? Which I think everybody has done in their bookish life. So no judgment, but it's there for a reason. So first up, I have The Picture of Dorian Gray, and I know this one is a sort of horror-esque classic book. I know the basic premise. He sort of sells his soul for this picture that, you know, bears the brunt of all his aging and poor choices, so that he can still be beautiful on the outside. This is one that I definitely want to get to, but I don't generally feel the need to read it except in around October, and I haven't gotten to it in like the past 2 Octobers. It's been on my list, so I mean, I'm gonna put it in, I'll get to it, because I will at some point. Next, I have Wicked Saints by Emily A. Junkin. This is one that's a fantasy. It came to me in an Owl Crate box, and I remember being really intrigued by the synopsis, which now I cannot for the life of me remember, even though I just bought the sequel. I think that speaks for itself a little bit. I bought the sequel. I'm kind of getting around to reading it. I know she can, like, one of her powers is she can talk to gods, and then there's a prince, and then there's a monster, and it sounded really interesting, and I'm doing an awful job explaining it. I think I'm gonna stick it in next up. I'll come back to that if I change my mind, but it was one that, like, every time I look at it, I'm pretty excited to read it, but I just haven't yet. Next, we have Casual Vacancy by J.K. Rowling, and this is an adult mystery, I think. I'm not gonna lie, I picked it out because I really love Harry Potter. We won't get into things that have been said on Twitter and whatnot, because I don't think everybody always presents their best selves on there, or maybe they do, and we don't want to get into that. But I like to sort of separate authors from their works, because works can speak for themselves at a certain point, and Harry Potter's one I absolutely love. I'm not a mystery person, so I don't really remember why I picked out Casual Vacancy. I think I picked my personal copy up from a my library personally does like bingo or a summer reading challenge, and if you do a certain amount of books you get a free one, so I think this is where I picked up my copy from. I don't really remember why I picked it, so I'm gonna go with why did I pick this, because other than J.K. Rowling I can't think of why it spoke to me, so I think that's probably where it's gonna end up. Next is Renegades by Marissa Meyer, and this is a sci-fi superhero type story. I know it's sort of supers against villains in that sort of classic trope, but I've heard that the sort of powers are a really unique system, and I'm intrigued. I have the full set, so I definitely intend to get to it. Do I want to say, I think I'm gonna put it in next up, I think, because generally it's pretty high in the back of my mind on my TBR list. Next we have Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. I'm not gonna lie, I have started this one a little bit, and it's not exciting me too much, and even the premise didn't excite me. I know it's about a magical library. Basically, that's all I got from the synopsis, and that's all I know from being a couple chapters into it. I have no idea what the stakes are and what I'm meant to sort of be invested in. I don't think... I got it in a subscription box, so technically I didn't pick it myself. I think eventually I'll get around to it, but it's not high on my list. It can wait. Next up is These Witches Don't Burn by Isabel Sterling. I'm pretty excited for that sequel to come out, even though I haven't read this one. This one, just from the vibes, it's this sort of group of girls, it's the sort of coven. It looks like a lot of fun, especially with the cartoony tarot card type placement of like their pictures on the front of it. I don't know, I love witchy vibes, so I think it's gonna be something that I want to get to. I'm gonna say pretty soon. So I'm gonna throw it in Need It Now for right now, because it's definitely been one I've been thinking about a lot recently. Next, we have The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And I have read a book by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I read Daisy Jones and the Six and really liked that one, even though I did not anticipate it. I thought it would be a cool idea because I do love music, and I thought sort of the presentation of like a tell-all years after a band is broken up when no one really knows why they broke up, because it was sudden and there was nothing really going on in the media that would point to why, was a cool idea. I don't love historical fiction, so I was sort of remiss to give it a shot, but I finally did. I went back and forth between the hardback and the audiobook. Both are great. The audiobook is absolutely fantastic, so I recommend that one. And sort of basing that on Daisy Jones and the Six and my feelings towards how well that story was executed, I think The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo is going to be one that I'm going to really enjoy as well. It was one I tried to write off for a while. Again, I think it's a historical fiction, so it's not usually my cup of tea, which put me off it for a while, but that green luxurious dress on the cover just it keeps catching my eye, guys. So I think Evelyn and her seven husbands are gonna go up and Need It Now for the moment, because I might get to that pretty soon. Next is the 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. Whew, another tongue twister, another Evelyn. My oh my. But this one is entirely different in genre. I believe this one's a sort of mystery, a sort of maybe supernatural-esque mystery, which intrigues me. I do really enjoy the sort of Art Deco pattern style of the front cover. I'm intrigued about why she's died 7.5 times, so I think Evelyn Hardcastle is gonna find herself in next up, because that one sounds pretty cool. Okay, next we have Dumplin by Julie Murphy. I couldn't read it, sorry. I've seen this movie. It was cute. I picked up the book because I really liked the movie when I first saw it, and then my feelings kind of dwindled. I don't dislike the movie. I didn't like suddenly change my mind. I just haven't felt a great urge to read it now that I know the story. So I might have done myself a bit of a disservice on that one. I am tempted to put it in It Can Wait, but I honestly don't know if I'll ever get to it. I probably will at some point. Maybe. But who knows? I'm a little torn. I think I'm gonna put it in Why Did I Pick This? Not because these stories are bad by any means. Like I said, I enjoyed the movie a lot, and I haven't read any of these books. I'm purely basing them on hearsay from anything I've seen on BookTube or read online, and my own personal feelings towards the covers. That is it. So I'm not putting Dumplin there because it is a bad story. It is just because I'm kind of already familiar with it, and sometimes I don't read books after I've seen the movie, even if I mean to. So, next up, I have Beach Read by Emily Henry. This one I picked out purely because I had a Book of the Month credit left, and I didn't use it in March, and I knew I had to use it either in April or May. I didn't really want to wait May out because Beach Read did seem like a cute enough story. I was looking for more contemporaries at the time to add to my shelf, so that is why I picked it out. And I love the beach, honestly. So I saw the word beach. I saw that it was about two writers. I wanted to relate to the writers. So honestly, that was why I picked it. I don't know to what extent I'm excited for it, because I'm not like super hyped for it, but it does seem like it'll be a fun read at some point, just like to casually, you know, I like to read contemporaries when I want to read, but I don't want to focus too much on the story. I find they're less complicated for me personally than reading a fantasy or a sci-fi or something like that. So I'll get to it. I will get to beach read. Alright, that marked the halfway mark. That's 10 out of 20 down. So we'll see what we are going to do with the rest of them. We have next Vicious by V.E. Schwab, and this one was one that I saw recommended for Slytherins on a couple of those like books for Slytherins lists on BookTube. I also see it come up a lot on different lists if you tend to like darker style fantasy. This one I remember it gave me kind of, the description of it kind of gave me Frankenstein vibes, because I think it's about these two scientists and they're both kind of crossing the line a little bit, and then they have this epic rivalry. I don't remember everything about it right now, but I do remember I was really excited to read it, and I certainly will probably stay really excited to read it. So I'm gonna go need it now. That doesn't mean it'll be the next thing I read, but it's definitely gonna be something I think I'd really like, because I too fall victim to, you can see it, even in these sort of random assortment of books that I picked. I fall victim to the red and black aesthetic a lot. So I have a whole shelf that you will see at some point that is just fantasies that mostly have red and black and white on the cover. Occasionally there's a variant, but that is most of the color scheme on that shelf. Next I have The Forgetting, and I cannot read who it is by. I don't actually remember, ironically, the premise of The Forgetting, other than there's clearly some forgetting happening. I remember thinking the cover was very pretty, very typical YA fantasy looking cover. I think the fact that it was called The Forgetting is what got me intrigued in it in the first place. I'm not feeling a huge urge to read it anytime soon, but I definitely want to, so I will say that I'll get to it. Next up we have The Starless See by Erin Morgenstern, and I had conflicted feelings about Erin Morgenstern for a very long time. I heard great things about The Night Circus, and then I tried reading The Night Circus, and man, is that book long and very, very detailed. And at first I was not having it. I could not get through that book at any kind of clip, which is what I'm used to, even when they're kind of dense. So I was getting a little frustrated with it, but I switched over to the audiobook, which was narrated by Jim Dale, so there's two versions of Harry Potter audiobooks. There's the Jim Dale ones, and then there's the other ones who people are going to get mad at me for forgetting who it's by, but I don't know right now because I have the Jim Dale ones. I like his voice better. So I fell in love with The Night Circus through the audiobook. So then when I heard she had a new book coming out, I knew what to expect from her in her writing, and I got pretty excited about it. And I've heard this one is very good, and that people who didn't like The Night Circus like The Starless See. So I have high hopes. Do I need it now is the question. Yep, you know what? I'm gonna say I do. We can move it later if I decide to. That rhymed. Next, we have The Dinner List. Again, who was that by? By Rebecca Searle. And this, I think I personally classify as like a science fiction-y kind of scenario. Essentially, this girl is allowed to invite anyone, living or dead, to dinner, and hilarity ensues, or drama ensues. I don't know what ensues. Something. Again, I think this was a book of the month pick, and it was the one that was most intriguing to me at the time out of my options. I very rarely like to skip on book of the month. I periodically sign up for book of the month, and then I decide I don't want it anymore, and then it's a vicious cycle. I'm gonna put it in why did I pick this, because while the concept didn't seem off-putting or unintriguing, it's definitely not one I feel any great urge to get to. So, pardon the bird if you can hear them. We've had a lot of great wildlife come back to the little woodsy area behind the apartment. So it's been nice, but they're loud sometimes. Next up, we have Verona Comics, which I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty excited about. I pre-ordered this one, so that tells you how I feel about it. It's by Jennifer Dugan, who wrote Hot Dog Girl, which is one I thought would just be a fun little summer read that I would kind of forget about, and that would be the end of it. But it was a very cute read. I recommend it if you like contemporaries. It just took place at a theme park over the summer. It was very, it gave Disneyland vibes, but without being set in Disneyland, if you know what I mean. I thought that one was really cute. This one is about a girl whose family owns the comic book store in town, and I believe the boy whose family sort of is a big shot in the comic book industry. I might be a little off there, but that's generally the idea. Verona Comics, their names I don't remember off the top of my head, but they echo sort of Romeo and Juliet, which I thought was kind of cool. I think that's sort of the vibes you're meant to be getting from it. Not necessarily a Romeo and Juliet retelling in a contemporary setting, but just sort of a little bit of those vibes. I think that's supposed to be the sort of, you're supposed to get that conflict between the families, star-crossed lovers kind of thing. And I was very excited about it. I thought it was going to be very cute since I liked Hot Dog Girl. So I'm going to put it in Need It Now because I was very excited, and it just came today. I'll show you. There it is. I have it. I'm ready. It's probably going to be one of the next things I read, honestly. Chain of Gold! Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare is next. Okay. I don't know why I'm acting like I didn't put it on here myself, because I did, but I'm very excited. I am new to the Shadowhunter world. And by new, I mean like just this month started reading Shadowhunter books. Just last month started watching the Shadowhunters TV show, which is what got me into it in the first place. I went, okay, I'm just gonna watch the show. I'm intrigued. Let's see how I feel about it. And then I went, oh my god, this is great. I need to read all these books, and boy, do I have a lot to catch up on. So, I have currently read Clockwork Angel, and I'm in the middle of Clockwork Prince. I am going chronological on the timeline of the books, not chronological in the timeline of when the books were published, if that makes any sense. For those of you who are Shadowhunter lovers, it does. Next we have Love and Luck by Jenna Evans Welch. And this was a contemporary I picked out. Again, I kind of went crazy and picked out a handful of contemporaries because I was in the mood to read light, happy things, or mostly happy things, instead of really heavy stories right now, especially with everything going on. I just needed stuff to sort of clear my mind. So this one was a contemporary set in Ireland, which I thought was fun, hence the four-leaf clover. There's a love element to it, obviously, from the design of the cover and the title. Based on the cover, I probably would have ignored it for a while, but because I was buying it, I read the synopsis sort of immediately because I was shopping online. I'll get to it. I'm not that, I'm excited to read it in the sense that like I'm in the mood for contemporaries right now, but it's not high on my list of things to get to. Next we have Spin the Dawn. I don't remember who it's by because I got it in an Owl Crate box. I don't remember anything about this book, honestly. I'm gonna guess that she has some kind of, I think she gets sent to be a dressmaker for a prince or something. I don't remember. I really don't. I can wait. It's something I might get to, but I have not at all been very excited for it at the moment. So, we'll see. Okay, 2 more left. Almost done. Bear with me. Just a little bit longer. We have the Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon, I believe. Samantha Shannon, I think. And this book is a behemoth. It is like 1,000 pages long. It's so huge. And it's a very dense high fantasy, and I'm all about it. Just not right this second. I don't know, it's got a dragon on it, and something about that title, The Priory of the Orange Tree, I was just like, that sounds so ethereal and beautiful. I don't know really what it's about, but the cover and the title just kept pulling me in. So I'm going to throw it in next up, because just aesthetically, I'm always drawn in by that cover. I look at it a lot, even though I haven't read the book yet. Okay, last but not least, we have Skyward by Brandon Sanderson, which I didn't have a great interest in at first. And the more I kept looking at the cover, the more I was like, I need to have that book. So it's a sci-fi. It's about this girl who tries to become part of the elite team of pilots, which I don't think girls have done before in this world. And I think she's trying to restore honor to her name because of something her father did. Her father was also a pilot. And that's all I really know. But I've heard very good things about Brandon Sanderson as a writer, which is what led me to think, okay, maybe I'll give this a shot. I have the next book. I very rarely like to start a series unless I can finish it, because I'm a binger. I do not like to wait for the next book in a series to come out. I don't like to wait for the next season of a TV show to come out. I would rather hear lovely things about it for months or years at a time and wait for it all to be done and then binge it all at once. I very rarely read things as they come out, but I digress. So I think I'm gonna throw Brandon Sanderson in. I'm gonna throw him in next up because I would like to get to it, but I don't have any urgency quite yet. Okay, that is it for my first video back on my channel. I hope you guys enjoyed it at least a little bit. I hope it provided at least a small distraction from everything going on in the world right now and brought a smile to your face. If you did, let me know by clicking the like button. I'd like to at least have a little bit of reassurance that I'm making content people will enjoy as I move forward. But if you'd like to keep up with me and all my bookish adventures, go ahead and click the subscribe button, and don't forget to ring the little bell so that you don't miss a beat. Woo! Who remembered her outro? This girl. Yes. I hope you had fun. I definitely had fun, and I promise it will get less clunky as I get back into making videos. I will not be so awkward always, but it's kind of like being in front of the camera again for the first time. So, working on it. I hope you guys have a great rest of your quarantine. Bye, guys.